Okay, so get this right. Denmark. They want to be like the green powerhouse. Seriously. But there's this hiccup. They might be short 70,000 skilled workers by 2030.
Yeah, that's a common problem, actually. A lot of countries, they've got the green ambitions, but finding the skilled people to actually do the work, that's the tricky part.
It's a big deal, right? We're talking electricians, carpenters, plumbers, all the folks you need to build a green future, literally. So how's Denmark tackling this? Well, they've got this new agreement.
This agreement on education for green transition we're diving into.
That's the one. It's a bit of a mouthful, but basically it's all about shaking up their vocational and trade schools, giving them a much-needed makeover. Because let's face it, those schools haven't always had the best rep, have they?
True. There's definitely a stigma in some places, seeing them as less prestigious than going to university.
Exactly. And Denmark's like, hold up, we need to change that. They even compared this whole green shift to a massive construction project, which I kind of love, because it's not just about policy wonkery and online courses. You need people who can get their hands dirty, right?
Yeah.
Building those wind farms, retrofitting all those buildings.
Absolutely. It's hands-on work. That's where this agreement gets really interesting. It's not just about throwing money at the problem, though there is a good chunk of funding involved.
Yeah, there's some serious cash on the table, but it's more about, like, changing the whole vibe, making those vocational schools more appealing, more in tune with what young people actually want.
It's about making those schools places teenagers actually want to be,
Yeah,
not just where they end up if university isn't an option.
totally. And that's where the, shall we say, fun stuff comes in. I mean,
Yeah.
they're literally talking about more field trips. Like, they want these schools to feel a bit more like high school in that sense.
Right.
Get the kids out of the classroom, let them see what a green career could actually be like.
That hands-on experience is crucial. Reading about sustainable farming is one thing, but actually getting out there, getting your hands dirty, it's a different ballgame. Makes it real.
Right. Speaking of getting real, they're backing this up with a whopping $210 million investment in new green equipment for these schools. No learning on outdated tech here.
That's huge, and it sends a clear message. They're serious about giving students the experience they'll need on the equipment they'll actually be using out in the field.
It's like, forget those rusty old engines, kids. We've got solar panels and electric car engines over here.
Exactly, and it's not just about the shiny new toys either. They've put aside $90 million just for teacher training, specifically on green tech and how to teach it effectively. Because even the most experienced mechanic might need a crash course in, say, electric vehicle repair.
Oh, for sure. Things are changing so fast in these fields. What was cutting edge a couple of years ago is already out of date.
Exactly. Teachers need support to keep up with those changes.
Okay, ready for another one that caught my eye? They're bringing in something called Green Journeyman exams.
Green journeyman exams. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So imagine this. You've finished your training, right? You've got the skills, but now you can take this extra exam, and it's all about proving your eco-competence, like a specialized certification, showing employers you haven't just mastered the skills, you've mastered the green version of those skills.
Oh, I see. So it's like a seal of approval. This person knows their stuff and they know how to do it sustainably. Smart.
Right. Shows they're serious about this whole green leader thing. Might even start exporting their skilled workforce. Who knows? But here's where I think it gets really clever. They're going all in on 2025, calling it the year of vocational skills. Big marketing push, events, the whole shebang, trying to really shake things up, perception-wise.
I like it. A concentrated effort like that can make a big difference, getting people
Yeah.
talking. Because it's not just about the nuts and bolts of these initiatives, right? It's about shifting the entire conversation around vocational careers.
Exactly. And they're not stopping there. They're expanding a program where they have young tradespeople, like people fresh out of these schools, go and talk to the students.
Oh, that's great. Having those role models, people their own age who are actually excited about working in these trades, that can be so powerful for a young person who's trying to figure out their path.
Totally. Makes it real, and hopefully a little cooler than they might have thought. Okay, so that gives you a glimpse into what they're doing within the schools themselves. But hold on tight, because this isn't even the whole picture. It's like they're building a whole new education system, isn't it?
Yeah.
And get this, they're even planning to launch 3 specialized, get this, climate vocational schools. Climate vocational schools.
Yeah, that's interesting. What's the focus there? What will they be teaching?
So these schools are going to be laser focused on key green sectors. Think renewable energy, sustainable construction, that sort of thing.
Makes sense. As demand grows for these very specific skills, they'll have a workforce primed and ready to go. Smart to be proactive.
Right. And this is where it gets even more interesting when you look at the bigger picture. This agreement, it had support from across the political spectrum in Denmark. One representative from the moderates party even called Denmark a green frontrunner because of it. So they're really serious about making this work.
They're not letting political divides get in the way of preparing their workforce, that's for sure. And it's a good look, honestly. They could become the blueprint for other countries trying to figure out this whole green skills gap thing.
Right. Speaking of other countries, I'd love to get your perspective on that, actually. How do Denmark's efforts compare to what other countries are doing in this space? Are they really as far ahead as they seem?
They're definitely leading the charge. This whole approach of weaving green skills into vocational training, it's gaining traction. Germany, for instance, they've made some impressive progress incorporating sustainability into their apprenticeship programs.
Oh, yeah, Germany. And speaking of Germany, Denmark is actually increasing funding for that Erasmus program, that big European student exchange thing. And guess who their first new partnership is with? Germany, of course.
Naturally. Makes perfect sense. Giving their students a chance to learn from Germany's experience in areas like renewable energy, that kind of cross-cultural exchange is invaluable. It's not about countries going it alone, it's about sharing what works and learning from each other.
Collaboration is key, right? Okay, so we've talked about all these initiatives, the investment, the political will. It's impressive, no doubt. But I have to ask the tough question here. Is it enough?
The million-dollar question. And the tricky part is there's no simple answer. On the one hand, there's plenty to be optimistic about. The sheer scale of the investment, the fact that they're taking such a comprehensive approach, the cross-party support, all good signs. But there are bound to be bumps in the road.
Let's talk about those bumps then. What could throw a wrench in their plans?
Well, funding is always going to be a big one. Will these initial investments be enough to really transform their vocational training system for good? And what if a future government pulls back on funding? Those are questions they'll need to address.
It's about long-term commitment, right? This isn't a quick fix.
Exactly. Then there's the whole implementation side of things. Can these schools adapt their curriculum and teaching methods fast enough to keep pace with the ever-changing green sector? It's not exactly a static field, it's constantly innovating and evolving.
So having the fancy equipment is one thing, but having teachers who know how to use it and a curriculum that actually reflects what employers need, that's crucial.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the human element here. To get more young people interested in these careers, you need more than just appealing schools. You need a change in how people see these jobs, these skilled trades. They need a rebrand. They need to be seen as just as valuable and rewarding as getting a university degree.
It's a tough one to crack, right? That whole idea that university is the path to success, that's so ingrained.
It runs deep, and it's not going to change overnight. But the things outlined in this agreement, especially those parts about showcasing the excitement, the real-world impact of these green careers, they're a step in the right direction, for sure.
It's about showing young people that a career in the green sector isn't just a job. It's an opportunity to do something meaningful. Right, to make a real difference in the fight against climate change.
Exactly, and that's something that resonates really strongly with younger generations.
So maybe it's not just about recreating that high school vibe with field trips and bringing in young role models. Maybe it's about tapping into that desire for purpose, that desire to be a part of the solution.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about the bigger picture.
It's like, we're not just talking about Denmark going green, are we?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole new way of thinking about work itself, what it means to have a good career.
It's a real shift in perspective. And for Denmark, it seems like they're betting big on this being the key to their green goals, their whole future, really.
Totally. Okay, so we've covered a lot, right? The good, the maybe not so good. But I think there's one big question we haven't really dug into yet. What does all this mean for you, the listener?
Getting to the heart of it. Because it's easy to get lost in the weeds sometimes with all the policy details.
Right. But this is about real people, right?
Yeah.
Making real choices about their lives.
Exactly. And those choices, they're getting more complicated all the time with everything happening in the world. Climate change, technology changing faster than ever.
Okay, so let's say you're, I don't know, maybe 17, 18 years old in Denmark. Just starting to think about what you want to do with your life. Why should you care about any of this?
I think there's a couple of big things to take away from all this. First one, it doesn't matter what field you're interested in, this green transition, it's going to impact everything. So the skills you learn now, they need to be adaptable. The world's changing too fast to just learn one thing and coast on that.
It's not just about, like, knowing how to install solar panels anymore. It's bigger than that.
Way bigger. It's designing buildings that don't waste energy. It's figuring out sustainable ways to grow food. It's analyzing all this complex environmental data we're gathering.
So being aware of the environment, understanding how to do things sustainably, that's almost like the bare minimum now, regardless of what you end up doing.
You got it. But here's the second thing, and this is the part I find really exciting. These green jobs, they're not just jobs, They're opportunities to actually be part of the solution to some of the biggest, hairiest problems facing the planet.
To look climate change in the eye and be like, yeah, we're tackling this.
Exactly. And that feeling that you're contributing to something bigger than yourself, that's huge. Especially for younger generations, they get that.
It's not just about making a living, it's about making a difference, right? So if you're listening to this and that idea gets you fired up, maybe this whole green vocational path is something to seriously consider.
It's a path that's only going to lead to more and more opportunities as we move forward.
I love that.
Okay.
Okay, as we wrap things up here, there's one last thought I want to throw out there. This agreement, they talk a lot about making these vocational schools more appealing to young people, right? But it got me thinking, what does that even mean?
It's a tougher question than it seems, isn't it? What one generation finds cool, the next one might think is totally lame.
100%. So here's what I want to know. If you were advising the Danish government on this, right, what's the one thing, the big, radical, attention-grabbing thing that you would tell them to do to make these green vocational schools irresistible to young people today?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Because the future of Denmark, maybe even the whole planet, depends on a new generation deciding to learn these vital skills. It's a question worth thinking about, that's for sure.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that. It's been quite a deep dive. We'll see you next time for another one. Take care.